Israel's army says it killed 5 gunmen at their hideout in a West Bank mosque as it continues a major military incursion into the Palestinian territory. The campaign, involving hundreds of troops, is raising global concern about the spread of violence coming in parallel with the war on Gaza. So for more on this, let's bring in Paul Wallace, who leads our MENA economy and government coverage. Paul, yesterday we were talking about the picking up of violence within the West Bank. It seems as though there's been no abatement overnight. There continues to be further violence. Walk us through the developments in the last 24 hours.
Hi, Joanna. Yes, you're right. The clashes stemming from the IDF raids into the northern part, or some of the northern parts of the West Bank, continue. This is a major Israeli operation. By some, according to some analysts, it's the biggest IDF operation in the West Bank since the Second Intifada. So you're talking about the biggest in about 2 decades or so. These moves by the Israeli forces will presumably continue for several more days. There has been some condemnation of Israel for this in the West. The EU in particular, the EU said it's worried that these operations amount to the extension of the war in Gaza to the West Bank, which is something that they say they're very concerned about. The US has been very muted. It hasn't said much. It did sanction some settler groups the day before last, and the timing was interesting, coming just after the IDF operation started in the West Bank. But so far it hasn't backed or condemned what's going on.
Another big piece of news that came out yesterday from the World Health Organization, saying that they had come to an agreement with Israel to allow for a brief cessation of fighting, to allow for polio vaccinations to begin within the Gaza Strip. Just talk us through what's going on there.
Exactly. The backstory is that Gaza has started to see its first polio cases in a long time, which is obviously something that is concerning health officials in the region. So the UN says that Israel has agreed to a brief pause in fighting in some areas so that the UN can start to administer vaccines on children to stop the polio spreading anymore. It is quite confusing, however, because just over a day ago, Israel denied reports that it was going to pause fighting, but now it seems as if there will be a certain pause, but it's unclear where exactly and just how extensive it is. The backstory to that is that Israel, or at least Benjamin Netanyahu's government, seems very wary of anything that looks like a ceasefire or pause to his domestic audience, and particularly to the far-right members of his cabinet. For Netanyahu, it almost plays into his hands politically to show that the war is continuing, and any sign that there's a stop before Hamas is destroyed can hurt him politically. But it definitely seems as if there will be a pause, at least in some areas of the Strip, to get these vaccinations going.